Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Angels City Council meeting. Its regular meeting of Tuesday, July 19, 2016. Will you please stand and join in a pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first order of business is approval of the agenda. Before I ask for a motion, is there anyone on the council or any staff member that wants to amend or modify the agenda in any way? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Behill, seconded by Councilman Soban. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The next item is staff updates. This is, we have enclosed in our packet an informational staff report. Is there any questions on any items in the staff report, any comments by council members?
I have a couple.
Okay.
Under the page 1 administration, there's this 12-year permit. I thought you told me that that had been granted. Is that true or no?
Yes, but we're still in the process of filling out the paperwork and paying for it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we
So
had
you're
we
wrapping
had
it up.
approval. It's just the
Okay.
issue of wrapping it up.
Okay, good. Then under public safety, late this afternoon, someone asked me what has been done with the marijuana grows that were within the city after the approval of the ban. There's been no addressing whether they've been abated, if that's the right term.
Well, the chief's not here tonight, so I'd have to address him and follow up with a report. But unless there was an actual call with regards to a code violation complaint, there would have been no action taken.
So they're still growing?
Until we get a call that describes where,
Okay.
we have no reported grows in the city limits. And I stress the point that's reported grows.
Okay. Next, in the Public Works, Engineering and Public Works section, there was a statement regarding the results of the power outage due to the Appaloosa fire, referring to the backup generator did not start. My question basically is the equipment tested periodically for power interruptions to see that it does start?
It's tested monthly.
Monthly?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was just an anomaly for that particular failure. Okay. And that's it.
Any other council comments? Any member of the public have any comments or questions with regard to the staff report?
Just a question, since I wasn't at the last meeting, is this the format that the council requested with regards to the bold type of new items? And
right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's much.
I wasn't
more
here, I
valuable.
just translated what I
Yeah.
heard, so
No,
make
that's
sure
much more valuable to me.
we're on target.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And by the way, welcome.
Hi, I'm sorry for my tardiness.
No problem. And your name is?
Elizabeth Perez.
Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
Okay. The next item is council updates, and I'll begin to my right with Councilman Behill.
I have no report.
I have no report.
Okay. And Councilman Sobat?
Okay, I attended 2 Mark Twain Wild West Fest planning meetings. We've gotten to the point where the big committee is broken down into subcommittees with special focuses on some of the activities. And that they're going to be holding subcommittee meetings over the next 2 weeks, so our next board meeting, full board meeting, or committee meeting will be on 2 weeks from now. The big event that's coming up on the 28th at the Farmers Market in Utica Park is going to be the rollout or the kickoff for the raffle, the Gold Nugget raffle. There's going to be Mark Twain in costume. There's going to be other people on the committee in period costume, and the media has been invited to come and cover that event. And that again is on the 29th, Friday the 29th. Finally, yesterday I was at a LAFCO meeting. Most of the discussion was about comments, review and comment on another element of the county's general plan. And of concern was water control or managing of or conservation of, alternate energy, suggesting that in addition to what they had in the draft, that they address also hydroelectric and biomass power production. And that was basically it. The head of John Benoit is going to take all the comments and have a draft letter for the committee to submit to the county and have that available at our next meeting for review.
Okay, thank you. I just have one thing I'd like to introduce and highlight. And excuse me for reading from my cell phone a webpage from the Calaveras Transit webpage, but I'd like to mention that for years, ever since I can remember being on the COG board, the organization has struggled to try to figure out ways to increase ridership, to increase revenues, get greater interest in public transit. And starting this Saturday, there's going to be an experimental bus run offered to the public called Saturday Hopper, which is going to run between Valley Springs, San Andreas, Angels Camp, and Murphy's to encourage ridership on Saturday for people wanting to go up into the Murphy's area to do wine tasting, to have lunch, and vice versa for the Murphy's Arnold people to come down to Angels Camp, perhaps Valley Springs, for shopping, dining as well. So this Saturday is going to mark the inaugural run for that service, with the first bus leaving Valley Springs at 10:30 in the morning. There will be 5 runs that day with stops here in Angels Camp at Worldmark, timeshare unit in Greenhorn Creek, and also with a stop at the Visitor Center. And then the last run of the day will leave Murphy's around 6:30 at night. And I would encourage everybody to take advantage of this program. It'll only work if we use it, and the fares are modest, $2 per person with a 50% discount for seniors. So please take advantage and utilize Calaveras Transit. Thank you. That's concludes the end of the announcements. The next item is public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda. State law prohibits the city council from acting upon matters not listed on the agenda, and matters raised by the public will be automatically referred to staff or placed on our next meeting agenda. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to address the council on an item not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the consent calendar. We have 2 items for consideration. Item A being approval of minutes of the regular meeting for July 5th, 2016, and item B being adopting a resolution approving a notice of completion for the McCully Ranch Road Overlay Project. Is there anybody on the council that wants to remove one or more of those items for discussion? Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to have either one of those items removed? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve both items A and B.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Moore, seconded by Councilman Behill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously 4-0. With respect to our regular agenda, first item is the public hearing confirming the diagram and assessments and directing auditor of Calaveras County to continue to collect assessments for the fiscal year 2016, 2017 for the Landscape and Lighting District Number 1, Greenhorn Creek. Is there a verbal staff report to accompany this?
Nothing to report upon. There has been no increase in the amount. As you can see in the resolution, it's staying at $289.52, and it's already been approved for $300 in past years. So there would be no need to do another Prop 218 concern.
Is there, well,
And I'd just like to note that the
Go ahead.
LOD engineer is in attendance if there's any questions.
right. Before I open the public hearing, is there any questions from the council regarding this agenda item? If not, I'll open the public hearing and take testimony from the public regarding this item. Okay, seeing no public comment, I'll close the public hearing and again ask if there's any further discussion on this item. If not, we'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 15-28.
I have a question.
Okay.
It's just for my own purposes. Now, the LOD, correct me if I'm wrong, has borrowed money from the water department to pay for the improvements or the projects that are slated. Last year is $149,000. This year I think it's $114,000. So it's come down some. We've been paying off that debt. In this budget, it looks like it allows for $17,721 debt service. So my question is just, what is the structure of the repayment of the water fund?
Actually, enough funds were not spent in the 15-16 year to trigger the loan itself. And therefore, we pushed the loan first being distributed to the 16-17, which is in that budget. So the 149 from 15-16 didn't go. And the reason it went down was because you had $20,000 also in that budget for wetlands maintenance, which we used to reduce the amount of loan you were going to need this year because it wasn't utilized.
Okay.
So that's why you're going to have a one-time loan of what's in the 16-17 budget.
So we didn't reduce we didn't pay any debt service last year.
We didn't pay any debt
There was
service,
no
we didn't
debt.
take out the loan. We instead reduced the amount of loan for this year and reduced it by 1 year, so now it's going to be paid over 7 years because essentially the $20,000 we saved on the line item dropped a year of payment.
Okay, so it's a 7-year schedule?
Yes.
At a set interest rate?
Yes.
Okay, so I was curious if we wanted to accelerate the debt payments, we could just put it at the $300 and put the extra $10 per unit toward the debt to repay the water fund faster.
Well, I had talked to the administrator. I think in future years, if we save money, we will continue to do something along those lines, or if something else presents itself, that money will be put in another line item. So we'll address it year by year.
Yeah, and Julie's right, no annual assessment is the same. Our cost could go up by way of landscape maintenance in future years, so the premise is a good idea, but we won't know until we get into the process of establishing the budget.
Okay.
Julie, while you're at the podium, there was something you said that made me think of a question. So the way the loan is structured is that the proceeds of the loan remain in the water fund, and they're just drawn incrementally as debt service is needed?
They were going to be drawn when they were utilized for the project itself, but the project itself had enough reserve funds to take care of what happened during that year.
Okay.
Right, so we had a payment scheduled for last year out of the assessments, and that's what reduced the loan, because we never had to make the payment, because we never took the loan.
Sure.
And you should see a change this year since we're getting ready to start the projects in August.
Right, okay. Any other questions? Okay, again, as I said before, if there are no further questions, is there anyone wishing to make a motion adopting resolution number 15-28?
I'll make that, but it's 1628.
I'm sorry?
I'll
You're right.
second that.
Okay. Moved by Councilman Soban, seconded by Councilman Behill to adopt Resolution 16-28, a resolution approving engineer's report, confirming diagram and assessment, and directing auditor of Calaveras County to continue to collect assessments for fiscal year 2016-17 for the Landscape and Lighting District Number 1, Greenhorn Creek. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you for being in attendance.
Thanks, Kyle.
The second item on the agenda is, again, a public hearing approving a resolution authorizing the city administrator to submit a community development block grant, a program application in the amount of $2 million, and staff report by our consultant, Terry Cox.
Yeah, good evening, Terry Cox, Cox Consulting. I do have my regular sign-in sheet for everybody that's attending this public hearing, and written comments regarding the city's community development block grant program can be addressed to City Hall. So, as the mayor just said, your application for the 2016 cycle of community development block grants, or CDBG, is for $2 million. This is the maximum that you can request. There are two activities in the application. One is the purchase of a new ladder truck for $560,000. The second is water treatment plant improvements for $1,338,600, and then the remainder is administration. So those two activities will benefit the entire city. The fire truck will let you access many, if not most, of the buildings in the city should there be a fire above 20 feet. So the fire chief sent me a whole rack of pictures that would fall, those buildings would fall into that category. I mean, almost all your commercial structures and many of your residential ones, as well as your assisted living facility. You know, there's just many, many of these buildings that fall into that category. For the water treatment plant, this would allow you to do proper disposal of the backwash and cleaning water that you've got that's basically going into a creek at the moment. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the application.
Okay. Before we open the public hearing, are there any council questions? Ms. Cox?
I only have one, and that is it an all or nothing kind of approval? In other words, the state or whoever issues this, if they say 1 million, is that a possibility?
They could give you one activity.
Okay.
So it used to be all or nothing until
Okay.
a few years ago, and then they split them out. So each
Okay.
activity stands
That's
on
all
its
I
own.
wanted to know. Thank you.
Ms. Cox, I have a couple of questions. So is the application competitive?
Yes.
Is there a rating and ranking that's going to?
Yes. We had been told a little earlier this year that there were so many jurisdictions that were not going to be able to apply because you remember what they call the 50% rule, that you have to have spent at least 50% of all your open grants plus all your program income in order to be able to apply. Well, there were so many jurisdictions that hadn't met that limit that they were thinking that it wouldn't be a competitive cycle. But because they bumped the date out so late, now they think it will be. So the good news is that Angels was able to apply because we got our parks project mainly done, and we wouldn't have been able to apply otherwise. But I think enough other jurisdictions are in the same boat that now it's going to be competitive.
Okay. So in your opinion, how do you think these two activities will will compare, or, you know, how will they,
Yeah.
how will they be received by the state? Because one of them addresses public well, I guess in a sense, both of them
They
are
would consider both of them as public
safety-related
safety.
items.
Yeah. It depends on who else applies. The way that they're doing it now is that they divide up the money based on the number of applications for each type of activity. And then they rate and rank those within each activity. So it just depends on who else applies for public works projects and who else applies for public facilities. And if they have more extreme cases, then possibly they would rank higher, and if not, lower. So it just depends on who else comes in.
Okay. One final question, and maybe this is really a question for you. So what process did we go through? How are these two activities selected? I mean, there's a whole host of things that we could use $2 million to do in our city.
Basically, in discussions with Terry and staff, we identified those that we felt had the best opportunity to be funded. Again, Terry described that we don't know what others are applying for, but because of the public safety nature, because of the public health nature, and because it applies completely to residents within the city, we felt that these were the two strongest projects we had with the cap limit that we had before us.
Okay. I certainly, you know, can't dispute the two activities selected. I'm disappointed that there was no dialogue with the council ahead of time saying, or asking the council, what would you like to see the city apply for? What are your priorities? And I think we've done that in the past, but here we're up against the application deadline, and so it's really too late to consider anything but the two that are being proposed.
Well, we did actually do that process as we started this grant cycle. You know, we always come before the council to do our, what they call the selection public hearing. So the initial discussion of all the available activities, you know, what the main criteria for competitiveness are. And we did do that last September. So, so there was a process like that, but we had gotten to the point where we were pretty sure that we were not going to be able to apply. And then when they pushed the due date out, then all of a sudden we had to sort of scramble and pull together a competitive application. So I think, yeah, normally it's not start and stop the way it was this year. But we actually did have a public hearing in September about this.
Okay.
And I apologize, because we did have that separation in time. You know, even I don't really remember that meeting, but I remember having that meeting and the discussion about what projects could be. And again, from a staff perspective, what we had, of all the projects we had, it still fell down to these two as being the best possibilities.
Sure. No, I do remember, typically in years past, we've had that first public hearing.
Right.
And I would share your description of events leading up to now, that it didn't look very, very hopeful that we were even going to be able to submit.
Right.
So I'm not critical of the projects that are being selected. I'm just more concerned about the process. And had we had additional time, I think it would have been nice to get, I guess, buy-in from the council that these two, in fact, are the projects we want to.
Yeah, I think I recall, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think I recall that meeting and being a little frustrated that we weren't getting our stairway from the Grassway parking lot to downtown, to the main street, that I think is the public hazard. I think, it's public safety, but I guess there's an indication at the time that that wasn't general enough, it was too specific for this.
Well,
It benefits more tourists than it
Yes.
does the general
Yeah,
population.
so
Yeah.
so I remember that, having that
Yes.
meeting, but, the fire truck wasn't in that meeting. We didn't talk about a fire truck.
Parking
right?
lots
That's brand new.
downtown benefit,
Yeah.
so we had, there's a slew of needs, but because of our tourism base as a city, it really narrows the focus with regards to the projects we can look at.
Right. So I remember at the meeting, I felt it was somewhat, I felt a little frustrated and it was somewhat futile because the projects were there and we were asked to kind of prioritize things, but then we would prioritize something, but they didn't quite fit just right, so.
Yeah.
And we have to be
Yeah.
experts to prioritize it, so I appreciate you guys coming up with projects that are gonna fit the bill.
yeah,
And hopefully it goes through, but I understand the mayor's concerns because these are,
right.
they look like new items to us.
Well, and CDBG has their own opinion about what is a competitive project. There are many eligible projects, but any public activity that doesn't primarily benefit the residents of Angels, and, I mean, roads would be an example. It's like you can't restrict who drives on your roads, and parking lots can often be the same, the staircase, those kinds of things. It's like, unless you're gonna, have a toll at the top so that you can determine, who is getting the benefit of that public facility, then they don't think it benefits the residents of the jurisdiction, and they give money out based on each individual geography, so.
Does it help us that we're combining fire departments and sharing in vehicles, and does it help us that there are more than perhaps one entity that's going to be benefited by the application, or,
Not really.
okay. Does it hurt us?
We don't talk about it a lot.
Okay.
I had a comment. I think the water treatment plant improvement is something that has been sorely needed in this city for a long time. And I think that both of these projects are great ones to put in.
Okay. If there's no other council comments, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to address the council on these items, there's a sign-up sheet. And please come to the podium. You seeing none, we will close the public hearing. And return to the council for consideration of adopting resolution number 16-27.
I move that we adopt Resolution 16-27, a resolution approving the application for funding and the execution of a grant agreement and any amendments thereto from the 2016 funding year of the State Community Grant Block Grant, CDBG, program.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved by Councilman Behill, seconded by Councilman Soban. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously as well, 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Terry.
There was it looks like there's a typo. It should have been Community Development Block Grant. And it says Community Grant Block Grant. That's why I stumbled over that.
It should be community development block.
Yeah, so in the resolution, there's a typo. It should be Community Development Block Grant.
Yeah.
I don't need to renew a motion, do I?
No. All right. Okay, that concludes the city's business tonight. The only remaining item is council comment. Calendar.
Okay, just a reminder that yesterday was the opening filing period for council seats, and we have 3 open, so just you 3 might want to think about that. What is today? Tomorrow at 10:30 is the COG TAC meeting at COG, at the COG conference room. Thursday at 8:30, at 10:30 on tomorrow. Thursday at 8:30 is Museum Commission meeting. The 28th, UWPA has been moved from the 26th to the 27th. And DAC Executive Committee meets at 10:30 on Thursday.
And that, I understand, is being moved forward to Tuesday as well, as of late this afternoon.
Tuesday, the 26th? or the-
Yes.
Okay, oh, and the Wild West Film Fest is moved to the 28th, too.
The kickoff?
No, the real meeting, you said.
Oh,
it
next
was-
meeting, yes, I'm
it's
sorry.
20, yeah. And then otherwise, we're back here on the 2nd for a meeting. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, I'll request a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Councilman Beal, seconded by Councilwoman Morris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes. We are adjourned.